Yo, what is good, YouTube? Krishan checking back in with another video. We are less than 5 weeks out from this year's Olympia, and it seems like Big Ramy is really pushing the conditioning. Ramy has probably had this face for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and as I said, when I seen updates of Ramy at about 8 or 9 weeks out, he looked better then than how he looked on stage last year. So hopefully Ramy, Dennis, and Chad Nichols are able to land the plane and capture a third Olympia title. Now, the next update of the day, we have recent updates from Samson Dauda. And it seems to me like Samson's legs have gotten even bigger since last year because in this variation of the side tricep, they just look massive. But my only concern about Samson is will he be in Olympia level conditioning? I'm not worried about Samson coming in off, but you guys have seen Iain Valliere, Vlad Suhoruchko, Big Ramy. Can Samson bring that level of conditioning, or does he have that thicker skin which makes it a little bit harder for him to get in shape, like a King Williams? And in the next update of the day, we have an update from the Persian Wolf Hadi Choopan. Now, we have no idea when this update was from. Hadi did say it was an older update. Could be older from this prep or older from a year or two before. But I'm excited to see Hadi at this year's Olympia. The only two people I see beating him currently are Big Ramy and Brandon Curry. And who knows, maybe Hadi can knock off Brandon this year. Now, the next update of the day, we have recent updates from Lunsford. I'm pretty sure this is one of the guys we are most excited to see at this year's Olympia. Now, I think it's going to be hard for Derek to crack that top 6 this year, just coming up from the 212 division last year. But in the years to come, Derek Lunsford will be a serious threat for the Olympia title. And I don't think Derek Lunsford will have a problem with size or conditioning at the Olympia. I'm just worried about guys that have more density and more muscle maturity. But you never know, guys. The whole Olympia lineup isn't going to nail it. Now, switching over to Iain Valliere, these are recent updates from him. Less than 5 weeks out from this year's Olympia, I'm telling you guys right now, this is better condition than some guys will bring to the Olympia stage. And Iain has definitely brought his back up this offseason. This rear leg spread was probably one of his worst poses. But Iain did say this year he really focused on driving the elbows back. He says it feels like this was the first year he truly trained his back, instead of just going with a lot of heavy weights, probably deadlifts. And speaking of conditioning, we have a recent update from Griffen, who seems to be in great shape from head to toe. As I mentioned in my last video, Matt Jansen said a lot of us are counting out Griffen. He's up 15 pounds from the Cali Pro. I have no idea what Matt Jansen does with these guys, but he definitely gets them to grow. If you're a blocky guy, you definitely don't want to be next to Griffen when he pulls that vacuum. Now, switching over to James Hollingshead, we have recent updates of him ahead of this year's Olympia. Will James Hollingshead be able to crack the top 10 at this year's Olympia? Will he be able to place ahead of Patrick Johnson, who just beat him at this year's Honor UK? What's crazy, I was talking to one of my guys recently, and I was saying if this was last year, we could easily place Charles Griffen or James Hollingshead in the top 10. But just with so many new names on the list, it's really going to be a battle to even make the top 10. Now, in the next update of the day, we have a recent update from Justin Rodriguez. These are probably the most impressive updates I've seen of him this prep, but Justin is also in some great lighting right now. I'm hoping that he can still bring a good package, but unfortunately, just me being honest, I don't think we're going to see the best version of Justin Rodriguez at this year's Olympia. Still think he needs a little break. Now, switching over to Regan Grimes, we have recent updates from him. And I think Regan made a great decision pulling out of this year's Olympia to really focus on adding some size. Regan isn't a guy that just wants to show up and compete, be second or third call out. Regan wants to be competitive for that Mr. Olympia title. I hope he really brings up the arms this offseason, but overall, Regan is a younger guy, needs more muscle maturity, and honestly needs a lot more thickness, especially in the side poses, side chest, side tricep. Regan is great from the front and the back. Now, switching over to Andrea Muzi, we have a recent update from him. This is probably the best Muzi has looked this season. Now, he is qualified for this year's Olympia off of points. Almost got a win at the Yamamoto Cup, but it slipped by him. He was a little bit off. That show was won by Vlad Suhoruchko. But Muzi will be making his Olympia debut in one of the most competitive Olympias of all time. But it seems like Muzi is going to bring his best to the show. Now, switching over to Vlad Suhoruchko, we have recent quad updates from him. Now, I'm pretty sure everyone probably has him placing between 10 and 16th. Some people may not even have this guy placing. But Vlad is a huge guy, and as you can see, conditioning isn't a problem. If guys come in off, I believe he can slip by a few. Now, switching over to 212, unfortunately, I don't think I've seen anyone talk about this show at all that was this past weekend, the Japan Pro. We had this show being won by Jang Yeop. Peter Molnar in second place, really making waves in 212. and the legend Derrick Henry in third. Can't believe this guy's still competing. But as you guys know, I talk about Jang's son Yeop a lot. This guy placed second at the New York Pro behind Noah Ladame. But when I heard Peter Molnar was doing this show, I was a little bit worried for Jang because at a week out, he wasn't looking like he was in the best condition. I'm not sure what him and Milos did, but they definitely brought it in. I feel like this was the best version of him I've seen so far. Now going into this year's Olympia, he needs to bring the back up a little bit more, which of course will take time, but he is qualified. Now switching over to Keone Pearson, we have a recent update from him. And as I've been saying in almost every single video, I think this is the year that Keone nails it. This rear leg spread was probably one of his worst poses, arguably maybe one of his best. And let's not forget that Keone Pearson is probably the best poser in the 212 division. I'm a big posing fan, and I think the guys that actually take time to make routines should get rewarded. Now switching over to Kerrith Bajjo, we have some recent updates from him. Now I actually took the time to look through Kerrith's competition history, and it honestly seems like Kerrith has improved for every single show, and I believe he will be better at this year's Olympia than what he was at the Tampa and Texas Pro. Kerrith is a wild card. I believe this guy can place very high at this year's Olympia. Now switching over to Lucas Coelho, this is a recent update from him. Lucas is actually recovering from an injury. He has something going on with his leg where a lot of pus filled up. Honestly sounds like it was just a bad injection, but he never said that. I'm excited to see this guy on stage, and I'm glad that he's recovering. Seems like he's going to bring some great conditioning as well. Now, ending this video here with the archive of the day. Name one, name two, or name all three of these guys if you can. Even better if you know the competition. As always, I hope you guys did indeed enjoy this video. If you haven't done so already, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm Krishan from Go Fitness, and that's it. I'm out.